Nope, not yet. We are now.
Okay.
Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod with Bhartendu Sinha. Bhartendu is the founder at Ingeniti. He transforms the world with technology, energy, and water. So we're going to discuss his background there. Ingeniti was founded in 2019 in both United States and India. He was a CEO at a couple of other companies, vice president at Autogrid and Smart Energy Water in the past couple of years. Also an angel investor. So interesting guy altogether. We're going to discuss his background and everything he's been up to. This podcast, real quick, is brought to you by bookwritegpt.com. If you want to take your LinkedIn posts and convert them into a Kindle book, you can go to bookwritegpt.com. You have a first credit on me to write your thought leadership book. Bhartendu, welcome to the podcast. Tell
Thank
me a
you,
bit more
Charles.
about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Sure. So, I have an interesting background. Born in India, grew up most of my life in most of my youth in the UK. So I was in the UK till I was 13. Parents brought me back. They were concerned that I had become British, which it's difficult to become, but whatever. Right. So I spent the next 38 years in India primarily because I went to regular stuff, engineering school, and you start a job. But my mother had become dependent on me. I stayed back in India. I kept on innovating. Throughout my 38 years, I kept on innovating, building new businesses, products, companies. I kept on doing it for other people, and always the goal was to do something which is impossible. I mean, that's something which is my motto, that I've got to aim for something which other people consider as impossible. And I did it a few times for Motorola. We did something interesting for Intel. We did for my companies got acquired by for example Nvidia. We had quite a few successes in the past, but it was always in the sense I was working for somebody else and I was building something. And what really motivated me from childhood was to help others. I mean, that's the only thing that makes me happy. And how do I help others? And what I realized when I came into smart energy space in 2015-16 was that some of the biggest problems in the world are related to energy, climate, water, agriculture. And I said, okay, what are the biggest problems, right? And what can I do about them? And the last 10 years of my life, I've really dedicated towards that. We have some absolutely transformational technologies which have won awards both in India and globally in the US, getting a lot of interest. They touch the lives of everybody on the planet. We are in a stage where we are, we had these products in India, whatever, for political reasons and so on, so on. We had to disband the company, came to the US on an extraordinary ability visa a couple of years ago, and have relaunched my businesses over here. Tremendous interest, tremendous excitement we're getting. Happy to share more with you, Charles, as we go through.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And my wife sent me an article last Friday that every chat GPT search costs like a bottle of water because
Mhm.
GPUs need a lot of water to cool themselves down. And yeah, this is at the core center of the problem, right? We cannot get to AGI if we've burnt the world while getting there, right? So what would be the solution to that?
Yeah, so one question is, do we really want to get to AGI? That's more of a question for philosophers rather than engineers.
I would say hell yeah.
All engineers want to get to AGI, right? But when we look back 100 years later, was it the right decision? I don't know. So yeah, there are three factors that are driving instability. See, we don't realize it. Our entire life is based on the electrical grid. Almost anything we do is based on either computation or communication capabilities, and all of that ultimately it's like the foundation. It's like we live on the earth, we operate based on electrical energy as a grid. So what is happening is that there's tremendous need to reduce carbon emissions. So we're going towards renewables. Renewables inherently are unstable, right? Wind, water, sun. So the grid is becoming unstable. So you have blackouts, brownouts, Texas, California, so on, so on. And that is only with like 10-15% penetration of renewables. So climate control is a civilizational imperative. The only way to achieve it is to go towards renewables for energy generation and non-carbon based energy consumption, like electric vehicles, e-stores, and so on. These are causing massive spikes in the requirement for energy, along with other things like generative AI, and causing massive instability. So we are basically living on a crust, like we are living on a crust which is becoming unstable, right? And we're not realizing it. We will realize it when the Earth gives way and we start having minor and then major catastrophes, right? So the challenge that is that we don't have a problem of generating more energy with renewables. I think that's the solved problem. right? Everybody knows how to do that. We do have a problem of balancing the grid as we go towards renewables. People are trying to do it with storage. It's very expensive, very, very capital intensive. It's not really a viable path right now. So the only other way you can do it, if you can't balance generation, you can't do storage, is to manage the what's called the grid edge. And the grid edge is a very, very fickle beast, right? How do you connect to the tens of billions of electrical devices that exist around the world so as to you can monitor and control and optimize them in a way that you balance the grid? Problem is unsolved, right? And that is one of the problems that we have. I would say we have, from a technology perspective, we have addressed it. We're the first company in the world from a concept, patent, product demonstration capability. We can connect to monitor, control, and optimize any electrical device anywhere in the world without hardware access, without software access, and without network access. Sounds crazy. And the way I tell people what we have is it's magic. The only way you'll believe it if you come and see it. And so we launched a Distributech last 2 weeks ago. We showed that. So that is one problem that definitely AI is one of the contributing factors. I wouldn't say it is the reason we have to do this, but from a civilization imperative, we have to balance the grid with carbon-free technologies, and that requires a way to be able to connect to devices in the grid. And there we have a unique capability. I've done lots of patents, lots of products, such as I've spoken to people who have been involved in founding the smart grid. A lot of founders of various institutes. Nobody even thinks nobody has heard of the concept also, right? So we are really at the forefront of creating a new concept that balances out the grid by balancing electrical devices in a way that is both consumer friendly and utility friendly.
So your software stack for electricity grid central, sort of, but also with consumer access. Like, who is your ICP, and what's the number one problem you're solving?
Okay, so you have to address, you see, ultimately all electrical devices are owned by consumers. So you cannot take control of them in a way that is intrusive or uncomfortable for the consumer. So fundamentally, we have a hardware device which through I wouldn't say rocket science, but definitely a lot of innovation and optimization, we're able to connect to any electrical device anywhere without touching the hardware, software, or network of that device, right? So that's one part. There's a hardware device, and it doesn't matter whether it's 1 watt or 1 gigawatt. We don't care, right? I mean, we just have different variants in terms of different packaging, but we have the same fundamental. So from your app as a consumer, you can now see all of your devices, even the legacy devices, smart devices, devices where there's no network, where there is a network. You can see all of your devices in one screen. You can monitor them, you can control them, you can optimize them, you can do energy trading, you can do deep analysis if you want to. You can do automation, bunch, fleet management. We put a lot of applications for the consumer, and through some interesting experiments that we have done and we have validated. So we had done this in India a few years ago, right? So we did it for 400 consumers: industrial, agricultural, residential, commercial, 100 each. We found that there's certain ways, if you take control the consumer's devices, certain kind of devices in certain ways with certain override capabilities for the consumers. Not only do they not object to it, but they love it because they save tremendous amounts of energy, right? So we provide energy saving in a tremendously powerful way with very simple opt-out or override for consumers. Now, when you can aggregate that capability, you can now go and balance the grid, right? So, and when you balance the grid in this way, what you find is that today, utility companies or companies that manage electrical grids, they're not able to balance the grid effectively because they can't connect to and control devices on the grid edge. You have things like smart pump, smart AC, smart thermostat, but they're like fragmented solutions that are out there, right? And they require thousands of dollars of investment. They require a custom app, and you don't have access to those apps. So what we've done for the utility is we said, hey, universal device access we enable for you in a way that consumers love it, and now you can balance the grid, right? So so we have a hardware solution, we have a communication solution, we have a app for consumers, we have a backend SaaS system which is in the cloud, and we have portals for the utilities to run their applications by tapping into the capability that we provide.
And how many potential clients do you have, or commitments? Like, at what GTM step are you right now?
Yeah, so we had to relaunch. I relaunched the business in 2000 last year summer, and very surprisingly, within 8 months, we have been ranked by Electrical Power Research Institute as one of the top 25 emerging startups globally. Right, SoCal Edison has given us a written confirmation of interest to do multiple pilots with us. We have IFC, head of climate tech. In fact, surprisingly, wants to invest in us despite us being a series, not being a series B or C company, which is a normal target. We have a bunch of utilities in India which have taken proposals from us. Some of the largest utilities in the world have asked us for demonstrations and meetings, like Florida Light and Power, National Grid. California Energy Commission leadership has met me. They want to have demonstrations to potentially deploy this. So we are still at an early stage, I would say, because a solution like this does take time to come out and mature. But the kind of interest we're getting is from the largest institutions and utilities in the world. So, but we are still, I'm funding it personally. For God's grace, I've had a few successful exits in the past, so I'm funding it personally, and we are just about in the process of launching our seed fund, over this quarter.
And will it be launched first in India, then in US, and then who you're targeting? Who are the decision makers precisely?
So we can sell through 9 channels: utilities, governments, OEMs, system integrators, energy and building companies, insurance companies, retailers, data companies, so on. So we have a bunch of channels, but we have to be focused in the beginning. So because we have half our team in the US, half our team in India, we are actually planning to initially target utilities in the US and utilities in India. Not because utility is the only channel, but because utility gives you a tremendous multiplier in terms of market access. So if you can convince one utility to start, promoting your product for their benefit and consumers' benefit, then you are getting a multiplier of millions in terms of consumer access.
Right. What will be the pricing plans or the types of deals that you will sign? Will it be like multi-million dollar deals per
Yeah.
year? Will it be per usage? What's your plan there?
So it depends on who we sell it to, right? So for the consumers, there are different products depending on the power level of the device and the number of phases. Phases in electrical engineering term, we have one phase, two phase, three phase devices. So there's slightly different interfaces that we have for that. So for consumers, depending on the power and the number of phases, they are tiered cost for the hardware, and then there's a subscription plan for the services. For example, we offer 9 kinds of protection. Do you want protection? Okay, there's an additional cost for protection, right? For the utilities, the way we plan to do this, and utilities, it's not just utilities, but large corporates, right? People who have aggregated large number of commercial or residential facilities. So for them and utilities, we are planning to do pilots at $100,000 a pilot, right, to demonstrate the value, right, and tiered pilot. We expect pilots to take 6 to 8 months, and once the pilots deploy, at that point, we would look at scaling this up. In fact, it was to scale when we had done it in India, but as I said, political changes affected us. So once we deploy, we would look at a minimum of 100,000 units, and that would be approximately a $10 million pilot. But the market for this, and we know the market very well because we've already done the deployment. There was not a single out of those 400 customers who was not extremely happy with the solution. So we know that we have a really winning solution for consumers and utilities, and nobody else has the concept, right? So the market for this is, see, we don't want to control your electric bulb, we don't want to control your coffee maker. Mid to high power loads, there are about 10 billion in the world, mid to high power loads, and all of them will benefit. So that is the TAM. But initially, pilots, few dozen deployments, go to initial volume scale, which is 100,000 plus. But ultimately, we want to be deploying this in millions of units over 2 to 3 years. And the product is region and plug and socket agnostic, in the sense that there's certain things we just assemble in the factory when you order it. So when we are ready to deploy, it's not just US and India. We're ready to deploy in Europe. We're ready to deploy in Australia, New Zealand, Korea, wherever. So we're not constrained based on the geography. So we are just waiting to raise our seed funding, and then we're going to go global with this, for initially for pilots. The concept is new, so people don't believe it can be done, right? But once we have done the pilot, then immediately go to 100,000 plus scale. I think when we go to 100,000 plus scale, we will scale up orders of magnitude, beyond that point.
What's the alternative to your solution slash the competitors? Are these systems run on
Four.
spreadsheets nowadays?
No, there are 4 solutions. One is you upgrade to smart devices, right? So smart devices means you invest a couple of $1,000s and you have one app for one device, and you cannot orchestrate your different devices, and the utility has very little hope of upgrading, right? So that is one. The second is you have very expensive systems called building management systems or energy management systems, which are provided by the large energy integrators like Honeywell and so on, right? So they are, they cost you millions of dollars to deploy in your building, right? They give you efficiencies, but your investment on that is extremely high. The third one was that utilities used to deploy on your high power assets, right? So they will, for example, have a controller for your HVAC system or your controller for your heat pump. Now the utility will autonomously decide when to switch on and off, and those were very unpopular because people really didn't like anybody interfering with their appliances in a way that they could not take back control. And the fourth one, which people sometimes confuse with, is this concept of smart plugs, right? So smart plugs we have for various, but smart plugs are typically designed for specific networks, low to mid power devices, and not in a way that the utility can also balance the grid with them, right? They're meant for more of user convenience, which is valuable, but they don't solve the problem of balancing the grid, right? So these are the four adjacent solutions we compete with, but nobody has what we have.
And tell me about your track record. You had an exit with Nvidia in
We,
2011.
we, we, we had my whole team was acquired by Nvidia. So we had created back then technology. So I moved very fast. So we had a company which was doing broadcast video solutions on programmable chips. And that company, that our chip supply died. So the company died, but we kept the company going in India. So I was working for India subsidiary. We created a new concept with a capability that was unheard of in the broadcast industry. Within 1 month of me engaging Nvidia, they gave us the latest chips. Within 3 months, we were listed as one of the top 30 broadcast video partners of Nvidia. And within 5 months, I was invited in India to speak with the Nvidia CEO on stage. And foolishly, being an engineer, I said no because there's an NTSC PAL difference between video technologies. I said we have the technology for the US and Japanese market, not for India. But that whole company, when we imploded, we ran out of money before we could convert. That whole team was acquired by Nvidia. Not even everybody is interviewed. I would say comfortably that they became the top video technology team across Nvidia. I know because we were specialists in that area, right? And that was one. Then we had with Autogrid, right? Autogrid, I set up and ran the India center and was instrumental to a lot of the engineering and business success. That was the second one. I had a third one, a smart meter company where we were too early. 2008-9 we started. We were rated as the best performing smart meter both in India and in Colombia against all top brands worldwide. But we were too early. We were acquired. Acquiring company was also too early, and that one had to be mothballed.
Right. And tell me about the AI component of your current business. Like, where does that piece come in?
Yeah, so AI comes in two levels. One is as an advisory and guidance tool. So if you're a residential, industrial, you don't know what to do for your energy optimization. May not even know what your goals are. So we guide people. Okay, do you have this goal? Do you have that goal? Do you have this goal? Then what are your energy assets? We look at your energy assets that you have. Then we look at your system layout, right? What is your physical infrastructure that you have in your location, right? In terms of putting additional things. Then we look at, or rather, the AI engine will look at it. And the fourth thing we would look at is what is your actual energy usage, in terms of kilowatt hours and peak load over the last 1 year, and putting it all together, we would come out with a recommendation. And then we obviously look at the broader LLM background space. What are all the different solutions that are there? Putting it all together, then we work with you and we propose a plan that this is what you should be doing. That is one element. The second element is we have a lot of applications that we can build for consumers and utilities, and making those applications intelligent through AI-based prompting and guidance. But the guidance one, the initial one is not tied to our hardware. It's more like analyzing the situation and recommending. The second one is tied to our hardware, our software stack, because it is built on top of that. But as I said, we're still in early stages, but conceptually we've got it worked out. And we didn't talk about the water solution, by the way. The water solution is, I would say, although people are not they don't think so much about water, but water is a bigger problem than energy. And the impact we have on water is far bigger than the impact we have on energy. I think we are running out of time, Charles, but happy to talk about that briefly now or some other time. But the
Yeah,
water
do it
solution
right now because, yeah, super relevant.
okay. So water, we don't think about water. Water is in our taps, right? If there's a power cut, we can last for 10 days in our homes. If the water is not in our taps or in our flushes, we won't last more than 12 hours, right? So water is becoming extremely scarce. Fresh water, about 80% is consumed for agriculture. There are parts of the world where the water table has gone so low, where civilization has extracted so much water from the ground that you are having existential issues or sustainability issues. Zero water days in the cities. People not able to farm on land that has been farmed for 8,000 years. So we looked at, when we proposed the solution, it was to a very innovative chief minister in India. We had proposed this solution for energy, and he said, "Hey, what can we do for water?" So we looked at the interface of energy and water, and it turned out that water was the bigger problem, right? And water, it becomes the bigger problem when it's not there, right? I mean, it's one of those things. If it's there, you don't think about it. It's not there. It's a much bigger problem than energy. So we actually realized that 90% of farm labor goes towards watering of plants on a daily basis. About 60%, 80% of water goes towards agriculture, but more than half of that is wasted. And it's extremely, extremely difficult to do watering of agricultural crops. It breaks the back of a billion plus farmers every day to go and water their crops, and then it creates all of these water survivability and even conflict issues that are arising. So what we realized is that a single sensor you place it. So the solutions are like drip irrigation and solar pumps. That their drip irrigation works, but it's crop specific. You have to lay out a network of pipes specific to the crop. Solar irrigation is terrible. When you have solar pumps, a small amount is good, but when you do it at scale, it's terrible for the ground, terrible for the water, terrible for the economy. So what we have is a single sensor which does soil moisture and water level. We place it in the location where in the field where water reaches the last. Right. So this sensor is our IP, our innovation. And what we do is we assume every day the pumps will be run. Right. That's we don't switch on the pumps, but what we do is when all the fields watered by that pump have reached the appropriate level of soil moisture or water level for that particular crop, and that is a one-time input right to the system, we send a signal, turn off the pump. Now, what we found is instead of pumps running 8 hours, 10 hours, they're running like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, right? If there's a flooding situation, we're able to alert that. If there's a dryness situation, we're able to alert that. The farmer no longer has to go to the field. They can sit at home or they can do some other profession, but their life is completely transformed. So the first time there are, by the way, large companies like Monsanto and all, which have automated their farming and done automated watering, but very capital intensive solutions. For the first time, we have an ultra low cost, deploy it yourself, automated precision watering solution for any crop located anywhere. We use a LoRa network, so we have 10 kilometers line of sight. If you have flat land, so once one base station or one hub will cover a few hundred square kilometers. And this was so amazing that the farmers who used it, they were so happy. Their life was transformed. I mean, people have been doing farming in India for 10,000 years. I mean, this kind of concept across all farming communities worldwide, right? It is extremely valuable, but not just that. So it transforms your water usage. It transforms your energy usage. About 1/6 of energy worldwide is used for water extraction for farming. It transforms your crop health because you're precision watering. It transforms the farmer's lifestyle because it's not going every day or the farm labor to water the fields. And it results in socio-economic upliftment in rural communities. We still have about 40% of our people in worldwide living. And when you have the water, the world is less water stressed. There's less chance for sustainability and survivability issues, and less chance for water-related conflicts, which are increasingly emerging worldwide. So this was actually a offshoot based on a suggestion of a chief minister that what can you do for water? But it turned out that we had a solution that works for the entire agricultural and rural community base worldwide.
Right. And when you started, you mentioned that you're tackling the world's hardest problem. So what does it take to have the moonshot mindset? Because it's very risky, financially, economically, emotionally, to put it all on the table. You were employed by corporations at various times, but can you actually moonshot as a founder? Do you absolutely need to raise capital? And what is the mindset?
So the mindset has to be you have to be targeting the impossible, right? If you want to do incremental work, if you have to have a 10x or a 100x mindset. You can't be having a 10% mindset that I want to do a little better than others. You have to have I live life on the edge. If I'm not on the edge in terms of risk, I'm not living life, and I don't expect that from anybody in my teams. By the way, you do need to have an almost, I would say. I would say it's a God's gift. Till the age of 6, I could not talk, right? And there's certain things happened to me at the age of 6, and my mind opened up like a flower. And since then, I call it an infinite stream of creativity. And I always given it away. Like the only thing that made me happy was to help other people. I've always given my creativity away. So I think you have to be, in some sense, gifted to have the ability to continuously create, but you also have to be passionate about a bigger goal than yourself. Money cannot drive you for this kind of activity. The goal has to be something which is so inspirational that you go beyond what what you'd normally be willing to do for money, right? So my goal here, I mean, money will come, but my goal here is to transform people's lives and transform climate, transform energy, transform agriculture, transform water usage. And that fires me up because fundamentally, I want to help people, right? And this is the biggest way I can help people. So I would say you have to have four things, right? You have to have the willingness to take risk, right? You have to have that love risk, right? Love risk. You have to have a tremendous source of creativity, right? Which can fire you up to think of things that people are not thinking of, right? You have to have the ability to uh, I would say is not a risk, but you are talking about helping other people, because money goals will only take you so far. If your goals are much bigger than money, I'm not comparing myself, but let's say Elon Musk, he wants to make mankind an interplanetary species. That's a massive goal, right? You have to have something that fires you up tremendously. And fourth, when you come to it, yes, you have to have some financial muscle. So for me to come to the point where I am right now, yeah, I've sold one house. I'm looking at selling another house, but I'm investing. I've had fortune in the sense I had a couple of successful exits in the past, so I have some money to invest. But if I didn't have that, no, I couldn't do it. So yes, risk, innovation, goal, and some financial backing you have to have.
Right. Last but not least, do you think AGI should be achieved? At the start of the interview, you weren't sure about that.
AGI will be achieved. There's no question about it. I'm finishing my doctorate in generative AI, so I know that space extremely well. There's no question about it. AGI will be achieved. The question is, what will be the outcome of that, right? And the challenge is that, as with any technology, see, when we created fire 2 million years ago, right? It resulted in almost all advances in civilization were based on fire, right? We could cook food, we could melt and create iron ore, copper ore, and so on. So fire was a foundation, but fire has also caused tremendous destruction, right? So even today, people set buildings on fire, right? As we see in Los Angeles in the wildfires recently. So AGI is the first time that intelligence is being automated, right? True intelligence is being automated, and that intelligence can generate further intelligence by itself. So we are basically letting the genie out of the bottle. The genie can create more genies, and what those genies decide to do, or what the creation, how those genies are programmed in terms of what they are intended to do, we really don't have a control. So I would say we are entering an era uh, of the totally unknown. When you get to AGI, the genie is out of the is about to get out of the bottle. When the genie comes out, how many genies with what intent and what they do, right? Mankind does not know, right? And so I would say, with fire we could regulate it. We have ways to manage it. If AGI becomes truly independent of human control, I would say that the future, there are definitely doomsday scenarios out there, right?
Yeah, very uncertain.
Yes.
God knows what will happen because they will think by their own. They will reproduce extremely fast. So I mean, we sort of control their hardwares, right? But even that, they'll be able to create by themselves. So very interesting times, and then no other better times than now to start a moonshot, right? If the future is really
Absolutely.
risky, then
I
right
would say
now.
to every entrepreneur, people tell you don't try to solve the world hunger problem, right? No, I'd say no. Try to solve the world hunger problem. You may solve something else smaller along the way, right? Don't aim for the moon. No, aim for the moon. You may reach outer space, right? But aim big, right? I mean that's one thing I tell people: always aim big, right? If your dreams are what will limit you, so always dream as big as possible. And yeah, you may not achieve your dream, and hopefully you will, but you'll achieve much more than if you aim small, right?
Love it. Bhartendu, where could we find out more about you?
I have a LinkedIn profile. Bhartendu.Sinha is my LinkedIn profile. That's the only social media I keep. And about my company, Ingeniti.com, Ingeniti.com. So these are the two places where you can find out about me and what I'm doing. But I hope you'll hear about me soon. We're planning a big marketing blitz over the coming few months. So we should be making a splash in a way that folks can hear about and also benefit from.
Was Bhartendu Sinha and Charles Cormier